Are there any ways to tell if your book is being turned down for matters of taste or matters of skill? My name is Gina. I'm an author, editor, publishing professional. I help you make your writing better. So while there are no surefire ways, there are some signs that you can look to that tell you whether or not you are being passed on because of matters of taste that you just don't quite fit into an agent's list, or because the book itself is not publishable yet. A lot of these signs are going to be easier to see if you have joined a writing group. So if you have not yet joined a writing group, I strongly advise that you do so. So in a writing group, if you are getting feedback that feels very generic and feels very sparse, that is usually a sign that the book is not publishable yet, that it is not ready to be submitted. So these will be things where people are like, oh my gosh, I loved it. It was so fun. It was so great. I think that you could maybe spend a little bit more time developing characters. But then they aren't super specific beyond that, or they aren't able to give you, or they'll give you like some examples of character stuff, but they just like focus on this one thing. Or similarly, they'll be like, this book, you have so many good ideas. Like, there are so many cool pieces of this in here. I think it would be a good idea for you to focus on structure. And so if they're giving like something just really big and something really general, and even if they're able to give specifics about that one big general thing, but overall they're being kind of vague about all of the things that they loved, that means that the writings is usually not very polished and that it's going to need more revisions before it is ready to be submitted. On the flip side of that, when people start digging in and start nitpicking at little teeny tiny things, that means that the overall writing is really strong, and it means that they are loving the book and they are like, all of this has been fantastic until this like one thing stuck out of me. And so they're able to like nitpick on little things, and you're going to feel like, can't you just ignore that? No, they're not going to ignore that because they want this book to be perfect. They want this book to exist out in the world. And so this is where they can dive into some really nitty gritty specifics. And they're not just saying like, you should work on characters. They'll be able to say, it was really inconsistent for this character to say X after he had done A, B, and C for so long at the beginning of the book. That really confused me. So the more specific people are able to get about like nitty gritty little details, that usually is a sign that you are getting much closer. Similarly, if they're able to say, you know, I really was expecting this to happen, or I really was hoping that this would turn out this way, but then that didn't really happen the way that I wanted it to. Now they're able to speak to matters of taste, things that they wanted the book to do, and you may or may not be willing to change those things, but now we are talking about taste. I really liked it when this character did this. I didn't really love the way that this played out. I didn't really love this part of it. Even if they are shredding the book, even if they are saying lots of things that they didn't like, we are now talking about matters of taste. This is no longer about like, I couldn't understand what was happening because it was very confusing. That's a matter of generality, instead of like, I was so confused by what this person did because they had been behaving this way and I was expecting this other thing. The more specific people are able to get about your work, the closer you are to being publishable. However, when you submit to literary agents, almost all of their responses are going to be very vague. Oftentimes they are going to give you form rejections that are going to say like, while this is not the right fit for my list at this point, I wish you the best of luck because another agent might definitely feel differently about this. That is very vague. That doesn't feel good. Now, if you are getting no requests off of your query letter, there's a chance that it is your query letter that is not doing the job and you need to workshop your submission materials. If you are getting requests off of your query letter and people are passing on your fulls and they're being very vague and very generic, here's where I'm going to be very annoying. I'm sorry. They might just be tired and burnt out and overburdened and not able to give you feedback. If they are giving feedback that says, you know, I just didn't connect with the characters the way I wanted to, this means your submission materials are doing a good job because you got the request off of it, but the manuscript needs some work. And we're going to go back to that. The manuscript isn't polished because we've been getting very vague feedback. If they are able to give very specific feedback on a full request and say, you know, I thought that the storytelling was really interesting, your voice is really engaging, these characters are really fun and I connected with them, but the last act doesn't make any sense and I don't have a vision for how to revise that. Now they are being very specific. That is matters of taste, or it is something that you can go forward and fix for somebody else. But the overwhelming majority of the time is you're going to get a form rejection from a literary agent because they just simply have so many submissions. They do not have the time to give feedback. And so if you are looking for feedback, join a writing group. A literary agent doesn't owe you that feedback until you are a client because they owe their time to their existing clients with whom they already have agreements. Join a writing group. That's the best place to get feedback.